Jake Harrison sat in the pilot seat of his small exploration ship, watching the asteroid field drift past his window. The rocks tumbled slowly through space, some as small as his fist and others as big as buildings. His ship was called the Wanderer, and it was not much to look at. The hull was scratched and dented from years of flying through dangerous places, but it was reliable and fast when he needed it to be. He had been flying alone for 3 months now, mapping new trade routes through the Kepler 442 system. It was boring work, but it paid well enough to keep him in fuel and food. Jake was 28 years old and had been a pilot since he was 18. He had short brown hair and calm green eyes that missed nothing. Most people said he was too quiet, but Jake liked the silence of space. The communication system suddenly crackled to life, breaking the peaceful quiet. A voice spoke in broken English mixed with clicking sounds he did not recognize. Help ... The voice was female, but deeper than any human woman he had ever heard. There was pain in it and fear. Jake checked his scanner and found the source of the signal. A strange ship was drifting about 2 kilometers away, hidden behind a large asteroid. The ship was unlike anything he had seen before. It was sleek and dark, with curved lines that seemed to flow like water, but it was clearly damaged. Parts of the hull were torn open, and he could see sparks flying from broken systems. He opened a channel and spoke carefully. "This is Jake Harrison, on the exploration vessel Wanderer. I received your distress call. What is your situation?" The voice came back stronger this time. "My ship is failing. Life support systems are broken. I am dying." The words were spoken with effort, as if the speaker was not used to human language. Jake made his decision quickly. His ship was small, but it had enough air and space for 2 people if they did not mind being crowded. "I am coming to get you. Can you make it to an airlock?" There was a pause. "You would help me? You do not know what I am?" Jake was already moving toward the airlock, grabbing his emergency suit. "Does not matter what you are. You need help and I can give it." He had always been this way, helping others without asking questions first. His mother used to say it would get him killed someday, but Jake could not change who he was. The docking was tricky. The alien ship was spinning slowly, and Jake had to match its movement while avoiding the floating debris. He was a skilled pilot, though, and he managed to connect his airlock to theirs without damaging either ship. The process took nearly an hour, and he could hear the aliens' breathing getting weaker over the radio when the airlocks finally opened. Jake got his first look at the alien woman. She was tall, much taller than him, probably 7 feet at least. Her skin was a pale blue-gray color, and her body was lean but clearly strong. She had 4 arms instead of 2, and her hands ended in sharp claws. Her face was somewhat human-like, but her eyes were large and completely black. She wore what looked like armor, but it was cracked and stained with a dark fluid that might have been blood. She stared at him with those black eyes, and Jake could see surprise there. "You are human," she said, her voice now clear without the damaged radio between them. "Yes, I am human. My name is Jake Harrison. What is your name?" She hesitated. "I am Zarathic of the Velinari. You should not have come. Your kind is not strong enough to help mine." Jake ignored the insult and looked at her wounds. There were several deep cuts on her arms and chest, and she was clearly in pain. "Let me help you to the medical bay. You are hurt badly." Zarathic tried to stand straight, but her legs shook. "I can walk on my own. I do not need help from a weak human." "Maybe not," Jake said calmly, "but you are bleeding and my ship has medical supplies. Unless you want to die proving how strong you are, you should let me help." For a moment, Jake thought she might refuse. Then she swayed and almost fell. Pride would not keep her alive, and they both knew it. She allowed him to support her. As they walked through the ship to the small medical bay, the medical bay was barely big enough for 2 people, but it had everything Jake needed. He had learned basic medical care during his pilot training, and he had treated injuries before. He worked quietly, cleaning and closing her wounds while she watched him with those strange black eyes. "Why do you help me?" she asked finally. "Your species and mine are not allies. The Velinari have never shown kindness to humans. Jake continued his work, his hands steady and gentle. Because you need help, and I can give it. Does there need to be another reason? Zarathik was quiet for a long time. The Velinari were warriors, and they respected only strength. In her culture, helping a stranger was seen as weakness unless there was something to gain. But this human showed no fear of her, even though she could easily kill him with her bare hands. He worked on her injuries as if she were a friend, not a dangerous alien. "Your hands are gentle," she said, surprising herself by speaking the thought aloud. Jake smiled slightly. "My father was a doctor. He taught me that healing requires a soft touch, not a hard one. The Velinari believe that only the strong survive. We do not waste time on the weak or injured." "Then how do you learn to be stronger?" Jake asked. "If you abandon everyone who gets hurt, you lose the chance to help them become better." This was a new idea for Zarathik. In her world, the injured were left behind so they would not slow down the strong. But perhaps this human had a point. She had been injured and would have died without his help. Now she would live to fight again. Was that not better than dying alone in space? Jake finished treating her wounds and stepped back. "There, you should rest now. The healing will take time." Zarathik looked at her bandaged arms. The pain was already less than before. "I am in your debt, human. This is not something my people will understand." "Then do not tell them," Jake said simply. "Sometimes the best way to help others is to do it quietly." As his ship flew toward the nearest space station, Jake wondered what he had gotten himself into, but looking at Zarathik as she rested, he knew he had made the right choice. Help was help, no matter who needed it. The space station called Haven Point was a busy place where ships from dozens of different worlds came to trade and refuel. Jake docked his ship at one of the smaller ports, helping Zarathik walk down the boarding ramp. She was still weak from her injuries, but her pride made her try to hide it. The station was filled with humans, as she could feel their eyes on her as they passed. "They stare at me," Zarathik said, her voice low and careful. Jake looked around at the people watching them. "They are curious. Most humans have never seen a Velinari before. We are still new to this part of the galaxy." "New and weak," Zarathik replied automatically, though she said it without the anger she had felt before. Jake stopped walking and turned to face her. "What makes you think we are weak?" Zarathik considered the question. "Your species has only been in space for a few 100 years. You have no great empire. Your technology is borrowed from other races. You avoid fights when possible." She paused. "These are all signs of weakness to my people. Maybe," Jake said. "Or maybe we just see things differently." They walked through the station corridors until they reached a small medical center. Dr. Lisa Martinez was waiting for them there. She was a woman in her 40s with gray hair and kind eyes. She had been Jake's friend for many years, and she was one of the few people who understood his need to help others. "This is Zarathik," Jake said to Dr. Martinez. She was hurt in a pirate attack. Dr. Martinez smiled at the tall alien woman. "Hello, Zarathik. I am Dr. Martinez. I study alien life forms, and I have read about your people. The Velinari are famous throughout the galaxy for their warrior culture." Zarathik was surprised. "You know of us?" "Of course. Your people have won many battles against impossible odds. The story of the Battle of Seven Suns is taught in our military academies." Dr. Martinez checked Zarathik's bandages while she spoke. "Jake did good work on these wounds. You should heal completely in a few days. Your people study our battles?" Zarathik asked. "We study everyone," Dr. Martinez explained. "Humans believe that understanding others makes us stronger. We learn from the Velinari about courage in battle. We learn from the crystalline builders about patience and planning. Every species has something to teach us." This was another new idea for Zarathik. The Velinari believed they were superior to all other races and had nothing to learn from anyone. But these humans seemed to think differently. They saw strength in learning from others rather than conquering them. Jake brought them food from the station's dining area, and they sat together in the medical center. As they ate, Dr. Martinez asked Zarathik about her journey and what had happened to her ship. I was returning from a scouting mission in the Outer Rim, Zarathik explained. My ship was attacked by pirates near the Veil Nebula. I fought them off, but my ship was badly damaged. I was drifting for 3 days before Jake found me. The Veil Nebula is dangerous territory, Dr. Martinez said. What were you scouting for? Zarathik hesitated. Signs of the Void Stalkers? There have been reports of them moving closer to civilized space. Jake and Dr. Martinez exchanged glances. The Void Stalkers were legendary creatures that lived in the dark spaces between stars. They were said to be massive beings covered in tentacles, with the ability to tear apart spaceships with their bare hands. No one knew much about them because few people who encountered them survived to tell the story. Have you ever seen one? Dr. Martinez asked quietly, Zarathik's 4 hands clenched into fists. Once, 2 years ago, during a military expedition. My squad was sent to investigate a silent colony in the Thresh system. We found the settlement destroyed, buildings torn apart like paper, then we saw it. She paused, her black eyes distant with memory. It was the size of a battleship, but it moved like a living thing. Its body was covered in tentacles that writhed and reached for us. Its skin was black as space, and where it had eyes, there was only darkness. It made no sound, but we could feel its hunger. Jake leaned forward. What happened to your squad? They all died, Zarathik said simply. I was the only one who escaped, and only because I was lucky. The creature was distracted by my dying comrades. I have never felt so helpless in my life. Dr. Martinez nodded slowly. The Void Stalkers are feared by every species in the galaxy. They appear without warning, destroy everything they find, and then vanish back into the void between stars. Number one has ever successfully fought them off. That is why I was scouting, Zarathik said. If they are coming closer to our worlds, we need to prepare. Though I do not know what preparation could help against such monsters. Jake was quiet for a moment. What if I told you that humans have encountered Void Stalkers several times, and our colonies are still standing? Zarathik stared at him. That is impossible. If your people had truly faced them and survived, the story would be known throughout the galaxy. Maybe we have our reasons for keeping it quiet, Jake said. No, Zarathik said firmly. I do not believe this. The Villanari are the greatest warriors in the galaxy, and we cannot stand against the Void Stalkers. Your people are new to space, and avoid violence. There is no way you could succeed where we have failed. Dr. Martinez looked at Jake with concern. Jake, you know, we are not supposed to talk about this. Talk about what? Zarathik demanded. What are you hiding? Jake was quiet for a long time, thinking. Finally, he spoke. 3 years ago, a human colony ship encountered a Void Stalker. The creature was young and alone, separated from its pack. Instead of trying to fight it or run away, the colonists did something different. What did they do? Zarathik asked. They tried to understand it, Jake said. They studied its behavior, learned its patterns, and discovered that it was not the mindless monster everyone thought it was. Zarathik laughed, but there was no humor in it. You expect me to believe that humans talk to a Void Stalker? Not talked, Dr. Martinez said quietly, but communicated, yes. The woman who led the effort was a veterinarian named Dr. Amy Carter. She had spent her life working with dangerous animals, and she approached the Void Stalker the same way she would approach any frightened, aggressive creature. This is madness, Zarathik said. Void Stalkers are not animals. They are forces of destruction. Are they? Jake asked. Or are they just misunderstood? Zarathik stood up suddenly, her injuries forgotten. I have heard enough of this foolishness. The Villanari know what the Void Stalkers are? We have fought them and died, fighting them. They cannot be reasoned with or understood. They exist only to destroy. Then explain to me how human colonies survive their attacks, Jake said calmly. Zarathik had no answer for that. The idea that humans could succeed where the mighty Villanari had failed was impossible for her to accept. But she had already seen Jake show kindness where her people would show only strength. Perhaps these humans really were different from what she had expected. I need to rest, she said finally. My wounds are still healing. As Jake helped her to a sleeping area, Zarathik wondered if everything she had been taught about strength and survival was wrong. These humans had saved her life, shown her kindness, and claimed to have tamed the galaxy's most terrifying creatures. If even part of what they said was true, then perhaps her people had much more to learn than she had ever imagined. Zarathik could not sleep that night. Her mind kept returning to what Jake and Dr. Martinez had told her about the Void Stalkers. The idea that humans had somehow survived encounters with these creatures seemed impossible, but Jake had spoken with such certainty. She had already seen that humans were different from what she had expected. Perhaps they were capable of more than she knew. In the morning, she found Jake sitting in the station's observation deck, drinking coffee and watching the stars. He looked tired, as if he had not slept well either. You were serious yesterday, she said, sitting down across from him. About the Void Stalkers, Jake nodded. I was. I know it sounds impossible, but it is true. Then tell me everything, Zarathik said. I need to understand. Jake was quiet for a long time, staring out at the stars. What I'm about to tell you is classified information. If the wrong people found out, it could cause panic across the galaxy. But you have a right to know, especially after what you have been through. He took a deep breath and began. 3 years ago, the colony ship New Horizon was traveling to establish a settlement on the planet Kepler 438b. The journey took them through a region of space that was supposed to be empty. But halfway through their trip, their sensors detected something massive approaching from the void between stars. Zarathik leaned forward. A void stalker. Yes, but not like the ones you have encountered. This one was smaller, about the size of a large transport ship instead of a battleship. The colonists prepared for the worst, but something strange happened. The creature did not attack immediately. It seemed to be watching them, studying them. Void stalkers do not study things, Zarathik said. They destroy them. That is what everyone believed, Jake continued. But Dr. Amy Carter, the colony's veterinarian, noticed something different about this creature's behavior. It was not moving with the aggressive patterns that had been reported in other encounters. It seemed confused, almost lost. Jake paused to drink his coffee. Dr. Carter had spent her life working with dangerous animals on Earth. She understood. That aggressive behavior often came from fear or pain, not from evil intentions. She convinced the colony leaders to try a different approach. What kind of approach? Instead of preparing weapons, they prepared observation equipment. They studied the creature's movements, its patterns, its reactions to different stimuli. What they discovered changed everything we thought we knew about the Void Stalkers. Zarathik felt a chill run through her body. What did they discover? The creature was not a monster, Jake said quietly. It was a child. A young Void Stalker that had been separated from its pack and was lost in the void between stars. It had been alone for who knows how long, and it was dying. Void Stalkers are not meant to live alone. They are pack animals, like wolves or dolphins. This young one had been trying to find its family, but the void had damaged its mind. It was confused, frightened, and in pain. That is why it had been destroying colonies. It was not trying to kill, it was trying to communicate. Zarathik stood up suddenly, her 4 hands shaking. This is impossible. The creature that killed my squad was not confused or frightened. It was pure evil. Was it? Jake asked gently. Or was it a creature in so much pain that it could not think clearly? You were not there, Zarathik said angrily. You did not see what I saw. You did not watch your friends die. You are right, I was not there. But Dr. Carter was there when the young Void Stalker approached the New Horizon. She saw the same tentacles, the same dark skin, the same terrifying size. But she also saw something else. She saw intelligence in its movements, pattern in its actions, and most importantly, she saw that it was trying to communicate. Jake stood up and walked to the observation window. Dr. Carter spent weeks studying the creature's behavior. She learned that the tentacles were not just weapons, they were sensory organs. The creature was trying to understand what the humans were by touching their ship. When it realized that the ship contained living beings, it backed away. It backed away? Yes, it did not want to hurt them. It was trying to make contact, but it did not know how to do so without causing damage. Dr. Carter realized that the creature was using bioluminescent patterns on its skin to communicate. She started responding with lights from the ship, creating a simple pattern language. Zarathic sat back down heavily. You are telling me that a human woman had conversations with a void stalker? Not conversations as we understand them, but yes, they communicated. The creature was able to tell her that it was lost and alone. It showed her images of other void stalkers through the light patterns, and she understood that it was looking for its family. What happened to it? The colonists helped it. They gave it supplies, energy sources that it could use to survive longer in the void. In return, the creature shared information about safe passages through dark space and warned them about dangerous areas to avoid. When it was strong enough, it left to continue searching for its pack. Jake turned back to face Zarathic. But before it left, it did something that changed everything. It marked the colony ship with its scent, a chemical signature that other void stalkers could detect. The mark identified the humans as friends, not enemies. And other void stalkers recognized this mark? Yes, 6 months later, when the New Horizon colony was attacked by pirates, 3 adult void stalkers appeared and drove off the attackers. They had detected the scent mark and came to protect the humans. The colonists realized that they had gained the most powerful protectors in the galaxy. Zarathic was silent for a long time, trying to process what she had heard. How many people know about this? Very few. The human government created a secret program called Project Harmony. They selected people with backgrounds in animal psychology and xenobiology to work with the void stalkers. The program has been so successful that several human colonies now have void stalker guardians. Guardians? Zarathic repeated the word slowly. The most feared creatures in the galaxy are now guardians of human colonies. Yes, and the reason this information is classified is because we do not want other species to panic. If they knew that humans could control void stalkers, they might see us as a threat instead of allies. Zarathic looked at Jake with new understanding. That is why you saved me. Not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough to show kindness to strangers. We believe that making friends is better than making enemies, Jake said. Even when those friends are dangerous. My people would never believe this, Zarathic said. The Velinary Warrior Code teaches us that only strength matters. We would never try to communicate with a void stalker. We would fight it until we died. And that is why you fail where we succeed, Jake said gently. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is choose not to fight. Zarathic felt something changing inside her mind. Everything she had been taught about strength and survival was being challenged by these humans. They had accomplished the impossible. Not through superior weapons or greater courage, but through understanding and compassion. I want to see one, she said suddenly. I want to see a tamed void stalker. Jake smiled. I was hoping you would say that. The journey to New Haven Colony took 2 days through hyperspace. Jake had called ahead to arrange permission for Zarathic to visit, which was not easy since the colony was part of the secret Project Harmony program. During the trip, he told her more about Dr. Amy Carter and her work with the void stalkers. Dr. Carter was not a soldier or a scientist, Jake explained as they traveled. She was a veterinarian who had worked with dangerous animals her whole life. She understood that aggressive behavior usually came from fear, pain, or confusion, not from evil nature. Zarathic listened carefully. On my world, we kill dangerous animals before they can hurt us. We do not try to understand them. That is one way to handle danger, Jake said. But it is not the only way. Dr. Carter believed that understanding was more powerful than fighting. Even when the animal could kill you? Especially then? The more dangerous the animal, the more important. It is to understand why it is dangerous. Fear makes creatures do terrible things, but so does loneliness and pain. When they arrived at New Haven Colony, Zarathic was surprised by how normal it looked. The settlement was built on a green planet with blue skies and white clouds. There were farms, houses, schools, and markets just like any other human colony. Children played in the streets while their parents worked in gardens or shops. "Where is the Void Stalker?" Zarathic asked. "Waiting for us," Jake said. "Dr. Carter wanted to prepare Echo for meeting you. Void Stalkers can sense emotions, and your fear might upset him." "I am not afraid," Zarathic said quickly. Jake looked at her with kind eyes. "Everyone is afraid of Void Stalkers. That is normal. But Eco can feel that fear, and it makes him nervous. Dr. Carter will help you learn to control your emotions before you meet him." They walked through the colony to a large building near the edge of town. Dr. Amy Carter was waiting for them outside. She was a small woman with gray hair and gentle hands. She moved slowly and spoke softly, like someone who had spent her life calming frightened animals. "Welcome to New Haven," Dr. Carter said to Zarathic. "Jake has told me about you." "I understand. You lost friends to a Void Stalker," Zarathic nodded. "They were good warriors. They died fighting bravely." "I am sorry for your loss," Dr. Carter said. "But I hope you will see that the creature that killed them was not evil. It was probably sick with loneliness and pain." "How can you be sure?" "Because I have worked with Echo for 2 years now. I know how Void Stalkers think and feel. They are not monsters. They are just very large, very powerful animals that have been hurt by living alone in the void between stars." Dr. Carter led them inside the building. The interior was set up like a laboratory, with computers, cameras, and strange equipment that Zarathic did not recognize. But there were also comfortable chairs and soft lighting, more like a living room than a research facility. "Before you meet Echo, you need to understand how to interact with him," Dr. Carter said. "Void Stalkers communicate through bioluminescent patterns on their skin and through chemical sense. They can also sense emotions through electromagnetic fields that all living beings produce." "What does that mean?" Zarathic asked. "It means that Echo will know exactly how you feel about him. If you are afraid, he will be afraid. If you are angry, he will be defensive. If you are curious and calm, he will be curious and calm too." Dr. Carter showed Zarathic how to control her breathing and relax her muscles. "Fear creates tension in your body, and Eco can sense that tension. You need to let go of your anger about what happened to your friends. Echo is not the same creature. That killed them." This was difficult for Zarathic. The memory of her dead comrades was still fresh in her mind. But she had come this far, and she wanted to understand the truth. She practiced the breathing exercises and tried to clear her mind of angry thoughts. "Good," Dr. Carter said after an hour of practice. "You are learning to control your emotions. Now we can go meet Echo." They walked outside to a large open area. Behind the building, at first, Zarathic saw nothing unusual. Then Dr. Carter made a series of light patterns with a handheld device, and something moved in the shadows. Echo emerged slowly from behind a hill. He was massive, at least as large as a battleship, with dark skin that seemed to absorb light. His body was covered in thick tentacles that moved like living snakes. But as Zarathic watched, she noticed that his movements were careful and controlled. He was not rushing toward them or showing any signs of aggression. "Hello, Echo," Carter said softly. "I have brought visitors to meet you." The creature's skin began to glow with soft blue and green patterns. The lights pulsed in a rhythm that seemed almost like music. Dr. Carter responded with her own light patterns. And Eco's tentacles swayed gently in what might have been pleasure. "He is saying hello," Dr. Carter translated. "He wants to know who you are and why you are here." Zarathic stared at the massive creature. This was the same type of being that had killed her friends, but Echo seemed completely different. There was intelligence in his movements and curiosity in the way he watched them. "Can I touch him?" Zarathic asked. "Not yet. He needs to get used." "To your scent first. Hold out your hand and let him smell you." One of Eco's tentacles stretched toward them, moving slowly and carefully. The tip of the tentacle was covered in small sensors that twitched as they detected Zarathic's scent. Echo's skin patterns changed to show different colors, and he made a low humming sound. "He likes you," Dr. Carter said with surprise. "That is unusual. Most aliens make Echo nervous, but he seems comfortable with you. Why?" "I think it is because you are a warrior. Echo can sense that you are strong and brave, and he respects that. Void stalkers understand strength." Echo's tentacle moved closer, and Zarathic reached out to touch it. The skin was smooth and warm, not cold and slimy as she had expected. The tentacle wrapped gently around her arm, and she could feel Echo's pulse through his skin. "He's alive," she whispered. "He is really alive." "Of course he is alive," Dr. Carter said. "He has feelings, thoughts, and memories just like you do. He remembers being young and lost in the void. He remembers the loneliness and fear, and he remembers the day the humans found him and showed him kindness." As they stood there, a group of human children ran past, chasing a ball. Echo's tentacles moved to follow their movement, and his skin showed bright, happy colors. The children waved at him, and Echo's humming grew louder. "The children are not afraid of him," Zarathic observed. "They grew up with him. To them, Echo is not a monster, he is a friend who protects their home. When pirates attacked the colony last year, Echo drove them away without hurting anyone. He just showed them how big and powerful he was, and they left quickly." Zarathic watched Echo play with the children, his massive tentacles moving carefully to avoid accidentally hurting them. This creature could destroy buildings and tear apart spaceships, but he was gentle enough to play with small children. "I understand now," she said quietly. "The void stalker that killed my friends was not evil. It was sick and alone and did not know how to ask for help." "Yes," Dr. Carter said. "And if someone had tried to communicate with it instead of fighting it, your friends might still be alive." Zarathic felt tears running down her face. She had spent 2 years hating the creature that killed her squad, but now she understood that it had been suffering just as much as she was. The real tragedy was not that the Void Stalker was evil, but that no one had tried to help it. "Can you teach me?" she asked Dr. Carter. "Can you teach me to communicate with them?" Dr. Carter smiled. "I was hoping you would ask." Zarathic stayed at New Haven Colony for 3 months, learning everything she could about working with Void Stalkers. Dr. Carter was a patient teacher, but the lessons were not easy. Zarathic had to fight against her warrior instincts every day. "Your people are trained to see threats everywhere," Dr. Carter explained during one of their morning sessions. "But to work with Echo, you must learn to see opportunities instead of dangers." "It is not simple to change a lifetime of training," Zarathic replied, frustration clear in her voice. "I know, but you are making progress. Yesterday you spent an hour with Echo without showing any signs of fear or aggression. That is something most trained soldiers could never do." The breakthrough came during Zarathic's second month at the colony. A younger Void Stalker had been detected approaching the system, and it seemed agitated and confused. The creature was sending out distress signals that Echo could understand, but the human team was having trouble interpreting the messages. "The new one is in pain," Dr. Carter said, reading the data from their sensors. "But we cannot figure out what is wrong. The light patterns are too complex for us to translate." Zarathic studied the patterns on the screens. Something about them seemed familiar. "May I try to communicate with it?" she asked. Dr. Carter looked surprised. "You have only been training for 2 months. This could be dangerous." "But I have seen these patterns before," Zarathic insisted. "During the attack on my squad, the Void Stalker showed similar lights just before it destroyed our ship. I think I understand what it means." Jake, who had stayed at the colony to help with Zarathic's training, stepped forward. "What do you think it means?" "Desperation," Zarathic said. "The creature is trying to tell us that it is dying, but it does not know how to ask for help. It only knows how to fight." Dr. Carter considered this. "If you are right, then someone needs to approach it soon?" "But it could be very dangerous. Let me go," Zarathic said. "I understand what it feels like to be alone and angry." "Maybe I can reach it." The approach was carefully planned. Zarathik would take a small ship equipped with communication devices to meet the distressed Void Stalker. Echo would follow at a distance to provide support if needed. Dr. Carter and Jake would monitor everything from the colony. When Zarathik's ship reached the troubled creature, she saw immediately that it was much younger than Echo. Its tentacles moved wildly, and its skin showed flashing red patterns that spoke of pain and confusion. The creature was about the size of a large transport ship, but it moved with the desperate energy of something that was fighting for its life. "I see you," Zarathik said into her communication device, using the light patterns Dr. Carter had taught her. "I know you are hurt." The young Void Stalker stopped thrashing and turned toward her ship. Its skin patterns changed to show curiosity, mixed with fear. "I was lost once too," Zarathik continued, her fingers working the light controls. "I was angry and afraid, and I hurt others because I did not know how else to survive." The creature moved closer, its tentacles reaching out to touch her ship. Zarathik felt her old fear rising, but pushed it down. This was not the monster that had killed her friends. This was a child that needed help. "You are not alone anymore," she signaled. "We can help you." Through careful questioning and patient listening, Zarathik learned that the young Void Stalker had been poisoned by chemicals from a destroyed industrial station. The toxins were slowly killing it, and the pain was driving it mad. But more importantly, the creature was terrified because it could not find its family. "Echo," Zarathik called over the radio. "Can you show this one where its pack is?" Echo approached slowly, his massive form dwarfing both Zarathik's ship and the younger creature. His skin glowed with gentle, calming patterns as he communicated with the injured Void Stalker. The young one's frantic movements gradually slowed as Echo shared information about safe places and how to find others of their kind. "Dr. Carter," Zarathik called. "Do we have medical supplies that could help with chemical poisoning?" "Yes, but we would need to get close enough to inject them." "That could be very dangerous with an injured creature." "I can do it," Zarathik said. "It trusts me now." The medical treatment took several hours. Zarathik had to guide her ship close to the creature's body, while Dr. Carter operated medical drones from the colony. The young Void Stalker held perfectly still during the procedure, understanding that the humans were trying to help. When the treatment was finished, the creature's skin patterns changed to show gratitude and relief. It communicated with Echo for a long time, learning about the safe passages through space and how to avoid the dangerous areas where the toxins came from. Before leaving, the young Void Stalker did something that amazed everyone watching. It gently touched Zarathik's ship with one tentacle and showed a pattern of lights that Dr. Carter had never seen before. "What does that mean?" Zarathik asked. "I think," Dr. Carter said slowly, "it is saying thank you. But more than that, I think it is accepting you as part of its pack. You are no longer just a human to this creature. You are family." After the young Void Stalker left to rejoin its pack, Zarathik returned to the colony feeling changed. She had faced her greatest fear and turned it into something beautiful. The creature that represented her worst memories had become a symbol of hope. "I need to return to my people," she told Jake and Dr. Carter that evening. "They need to know what I have learned here." "Will they believe you?" Jake asked. "Some will. Others will think I have gone mad, but I have to try. The Velinari have been fighting the wrong war for too long. We have been fighting against creatures that could be our allies." Dr. Carter gave Zarathik a communication device that would let her contact the colony if she needed help. "Remember what you have learned. Here, strength is not just about fighting. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is choose to understand instead of destroy." When Zarathik returned to Velinari space, she faced exactly the challenges she had expected. Most of her people thought she had been brainwashed by the humans. The military leaders called her a traitor for suggesting that they should try to communicate with Void Stalkers instead of fighting them, but Zarathik persisted. She told her story to anyone who would listen. She showed them recordings of Echo playing with human children and the young Void Stalker accepting medical treatment. Slowly, some of her people began to question their old beliefs. The real change came when a Void Stalker pack approached a Velinary colony 6 months later. Instead of preparing for battle, Zarathic convinced the colony leaders to try the human method. Using the techniques Dr. Carter had taught her, she made contact with the pack leader. The Void Stalkers were not attacking. They were fleeing from a plague that was killing their young, and they needed help. Zarathic was able to arrange for human medical teams to work with Velinary doctors to treat the sick creatures. The successful cooperation between humans, Velinary and Void Stalkers became the foundation for a new alliance. Other species heard the story and began to question their own assumptions about strength and survival. Jake visited Zarathic a year later, finding her leading the first interspecies cooperation center. She had been transformed from a warrior into a healer, but she had lost none of her strength. If anything, she had become stronger by learning that true power came from building bridges instead of walls. "You were right," she told Jake as they watched human children play with young Velinary in the center's garden. "The strongest thing we can do is choose to understand each other." Above them, Echo circled peacefully in the sky, no longer the galaxy's most terrifying creature but its newest protector. The universe was a smaller, safer place when its inhabitants chose cooperation over conflict and understanding over fear.